we know where I'm starting off today's show. We know. It was a beatdown. It was a beatdown of very, very alarming proportions. Terrence Crawford, the WBO champion of the world in the welterweight division at the time, going up against Errol Spence Jr. Crawford was 39-0 coming into the fight. Errol Spence Jr. was 28-0 coming into the fight with 22 knockouts. It was one of the epic matchups that we had been looking forward to. Obviously, coming into this fight, it was hyped as the biggest fight since Floyd Money Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. I assumed, and it was, by the way, that it would be a better fight than what actually took place in the ring between Floyd Money Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. But to get this out of the way, to get the very obvious out the way, Terrence Crawford was absolutely spectacular. In the sport of boxing, an elite trainer. Nobody knows more boxing than this man. I love talking to him. I love doing television with him. I love him personally. He's a friend and the most renowned boxing analyst I have ever known in my lifetime. He's my colleague at ESPN. He's got his own podcast. He's the first call that I made when I wanted a boxing analyst, obviously, to come on and dissect what transpired between Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. on Saturday night. He is the one, the only Teddy Atlas, and he joins me right now. Teddy Atlas, what's going on, big time? How are you, sir? How's everything?
Love you too. What can I tell you? Love you too. Love your family. I love your sister a little bit more than you, but it's very close. Very close.
Of course, Carmen sends her love. You know how she is when it comes to you, Teddy. You know how she is when it comes to you. Teddy, I got to tell you this, man. Listen, I love great boxing matches. I don't consider this that. I think it was incredibly lopsided, although it was very entertaining, and we get that. I got to tell you, I walked away with a palpable level of sadness, considering what transpired.
Power to it. There's a power that's just like there's a physical power to your talents. There's a greatness to that kind of strength and belief. Mm-hmm. Reminded me of also where Customato used to tell me the special ones can create it as they do it, like a Louis Armstrong that can create a new note on a horn mm-hmm. that you never heard before. You just never heard it before. Right. And say, wow, where'd that come from? Oh, Jimi Hendrix on a string. All of that. Yes, he's well-rounded, but he's dimensional. He can counter. He can go get you. He can sit in a pocket. He can do all of those things. But the most important thing is that this is a guy that sees things that other people don't see. Yeah. That it's this part. It's the cerebral part, the mental part, that he can be calm in an uncalm environment. And that they all have talent. Spence has talent too. There's no doubt about it. But he's in a cerebral vacuum. He lives in a different place. It's a different air for these special, the same as it is for Tom Brady when he sees things mm-hmm. that other people, Michael Jordan, when he sees things others don't see. When they say the game slows down for them, mm-hmm. it does. It's like Neo in the Matrix where he sees the bullets coming. The game slows down for these special guys. Yeah, there's other guys with a better arm than Tom Brady. Yep. There's other guys that are athletic like Michael Jordan, but they're not here. They're not able to be able to see the things, to be able to breathe in that air, that, again, in that vacuum that they live in, where they can do things with their talent, execute it, that other people that have really comparable talent maybe can't do it.
But Teddy,
because
let me interject. And the reason why I want to interject, Teddy, is because that speaks to the greatness of Terrence Crawford, which you have been alluding to for quite some time ahead of a lot of people, because you've always said he sees things other people don't see. He's got a third eye, and not just the ability to see it, but to react quickly to it before you have an opportunity to react. And since he could do that with skill as well as precision and power, obviously that makes him very deadly. So that speaks to his greatness, which is not open for debate. But even knowing that about him, you still never provided an indication coming into this fight that it was going to be as lopsided as what we witnessed. So his greatness is one element to it. What about Errol Spence, who was 28-0 coming into this fight? What did it say to you that we saw from him, what we saw from him in this fight?
Listen, Spence is a good, solid fighter. We shouldn't demean that. We shouldn't forget that. He is. But again, he's in there with a guy that he's got, first of all, Crawford was faster. He had speed. He was fast.
Much
and everybody
faster.
said, oh, the other guy's the naturally bigger guy. And I tried to explain to people before the fight when I was breaking it down. I picked Crawford by knockout. And the reason they would say, well, the other guy's a bigger, stronger guy. He's a naturally bigger guy. I said, that doesn't correlate with power. Just size does not connect with power. Punches are born, they're not made. And you either have molecule for molecule, that kind of power, or you don't. He was the puncher. He was the guy that was more explosive going into, even though he was a smaller man that moved up 3 or so weight classes. That's number one. Number two, speed. You can see the significant difference of
Absolutely.
the speed. Number three, even though he was a smaller man, he had the reach, but he knows how to use the reach. He's got those long arms. He knows how to do it. But what you touched on, that is the icing on the cake. That is the glue that puts this masterpiece together. The timing. Again, he's in a cerebral vacuum where his time, he sees something, where you just see, bang, he sees it where he's the guy, the gunslinger.
Yeah.
That you see in the movies. That the
quick draw. Just quicker than everybody else.
They're about to draw. The two guys are standing off and they're about to draw. And the guy goes to grab his gun. The other guy already has it out of the pistol pointed at him. That's him. That really is. And I think that's the right way to describe it. Because he sees things where his timing, where he can be, there's a little crevice. There's just little tiny
right.
openings in a fight.
Right.
Where same thing in football, same thing in basketball. There's just little openings where he sees those openings.
Okay.
And he's calm enough to get there before the other guy who has talent. But you know what he is, Steven? This is what he is for a picture for everyone. Just a visual. And I know it's dramatic and all that, but it really gets to the point. He is the Terminator. The first Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the first prototype, you saw him. But then in Arnold Schwarzenegger's second Terminator, you saw the guy that could turn into liquid steel. He was a different prototype.
That was the second one. He was a different prototype. That was a different prototype.
That's him. And it's no knock on the first Terminator. The first Terminator was a hell of a damn good. And he do extraordinary things. That's Spence.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you. I got it. Let me ask you this. Knowing boxing the way that you do, think about the history of the welterweight division. I'm thinking Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm thinking Tommy the Hitman Hearns. I'm thinking Roberto Duran. I'm thinking Pepino Cuevas. I'm thinking Wilfredo Benitez. I'm thinking Felix Trinidad when he was a welterweight. I'm thinking Oscar De La Hoya when he was a welterweight. I'm thinking Manny Pacquiao. I'm thinking so many of these guys. Obviously with Aaron Pryor, Alexis Aguero goes like that with junior welterweight stuff like that. But I'm thinking about
naming the right names.
I'm naming the right names. When you saw what you saw from Terrence Crawford Saturday night, where is he? As quickly as you could possibly give me an answer to that, because I got a couple of more questions. Where is he compared to those names?
The one who's see, that's where people
vicious.
He's vicious, and see, that's where people
vicious.
He's vicious, and he's a look. Obviously, we don't mean this literal, and we're not trying to put the wrong message out there. But again, to be vivid, to get to the point, he's a stone killer. He's a guy that sees only what he has to see. There's nothing else that gets. Cus D'Amato told me years ago that there was a pro fight. Said, I know I'm getting to those play, but the point that Cus was making is I know I'm getting to those play, but the point that Cus was making is very few people have that kind of blindness, that kind of focus, that kind of laser where nothing interferes with the mission. Nothing interferes with their job. They not whether they get hit, whether the guy is a monster. Nothing changes. Nothing influences or impacts them or compromises them in a way that other people get compromised.
Okay, I got to go here with you because you and I talked over the weekend after the fight, and it's rare. I'm going to throw just a couple of names out there. Stay with me for a second. I think about George Foreman beating up Joe Frazier. I think about Felix Trinidad walking through William Joppy at Madison Square Garden. I think about Floyd Money Mayweather destroying the late, great Diego Corrales, God rest his soul. I think about Floyd Money Mayweather destroying Arturo Gatti in Atlantic City. I was at that fight, God rest his soul, Gatti's soul. It is rare in the day that I've seen a fighter get beat up the way I saw Errol Spence get beat up. It was so bad to me, Teddy. I sat up there and said to myself, I took into account the car accidents that he's had, the way it shattered his jaw, his teeth, the concussions, the retina, because he had a detached retina when he was training for Manny Pacquiao. I said he should consider retirement after what happened to him Saturday night. You countered by saying, you're right, but if not that, at least not allow him to box for the next year, considering the punishment he took. For my viewers and listeners out there, I need you to crystallize the kind of punishment Errol Spence endured Saturday night to make that point.
You know what takes away from it, to your point, and it's the right point. It's the human point. It's the responsible point. It's the sportsman point. It's the point in our business. I always have said over the years when I had the microphone at ESPN that when you go in that ring, you leave that ring with less of yourself. It's a fact. You leave. And when I used to go nuts on bad judging and bad referee and call them out and crucify them, people would say, Teddy, why? Why do you take it to that degree? That's why. You go in the ring, you leave the ring with less of yourself. It's just a matter of how much less. He left. Spence left the ring with a lot less of himself that he'll never get back. That's a fact, to your point. And the right point. The human point, the sportsman point, the responsible point. 100%. He will never get that back. And that has to be put into account when you start to talk about nobody wants to take away someone's earning power. No one wants to take away somebody's career. No one wants to do that. But the reality in life, especially in life in a difficult business like this, is that sometimes you do have to think down that road, along those lines. And I wouldn't let him get near a ring. See, here's the thing that throws people off. It wasn't one of those bang, lights out, he's laying there, the foot's twitching. You know, it wasn't one of those. So people say, well, you know, he didn't get knocked out. No, it was worse. It was worse. The accumulative damage that was done round after round. He would have been better off if he got caught flush, bang, one shot, laid down, foot twitch for a minute. We revive him. Thank God he's okay. We get him into his locker room. That would have been 1,000 times better than what he endured. His own toughness.
That's what I feel.
Put him in a position where he got damaged more and where now there's more of a risk of future problems down the road.
Yes.
He, at the very least, I'll reiterate what you already said, and you were accurate. At the very least, take a year off. And when I say a year off, I don't mean back in the gym in 6 months sparring, playing around with. No, a year off from getting touched in the head. Take time off. Let him. He's earned the time off.
Yes.
He's earned a lot of money. Thank God.
Well,
he can take care of his family. He lives life the right way. Let him have what he deserves. Let him have a rest and a life.
Teddy, I got to tell you something. I'm of the mindset, I completely agree with you, and I'm of the mindset he cannot get back in the ring in December, and more importantly, I don't think he should ever think about getting back in the ring with Terrence Crawford. It's just, it would be.
Well, I tell you right now, Stephen, we have commissions out there, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Why do we have a commission out there? Seriously.
To protect the fighters. It's supposed to be to protect the
fighters, right?
Supposed to protect
Theoretically, they're out there, and some of them get paid by taxpayer money. Some of them. So, theoretically, they are out there to protect the fighters. That's what it's supposed to be. Protect the fighters. That's the most important thing. What kind of commission worth their salt that could call themselves a commission, that should even exist as a commission, would allow him, after that punishment, to fight again in December or anything close to that?
I got commission? You. Teddy, I've got to run. I appreciate this so much, man. Time out of your busy schedule. Thank you so much, buddy. All right. I got to run. You take care of yourself. All right, buddy. The one and only Teddy Atlas right here with Stephen A. on the Stephen A. Smith Show over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Let me just reiterate what Teddy Atlas just said. Ladies and gentlemen, this is no joke. Errol Spence got destroyed. I mean, it was one of those situations, your soul was taken from you. That was a thorough ass whipping. And I don't say that with any pleasure. I don't say that with any anything whatsoever. I love Errol Spence Jr. I thought he had a shot at winning this fight. I picked Crawford to win by decision. I did not see this coming. I did not see that it would be like this. It was that bad. It really, really, really was. And I just don't know what to say. You know, I expected Crawford to be faster, quicker. I knew that he had the power. I knew all of that. But I want to take a moment to give Oscar De La Hoya some love. I want you all to take a look at this tweet that Oscar De La Hoya had sent out prior to the fight Saturday night at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Oscar De La Hoya said, quote, "What people are not talking about is Spence's jaw. That car accident," he's talking about from 2019, where the Ferrari flipped over numerous times, caused damage to all of Spence's teeth. Look at the Ugot. Look at Ugot's wobbling Spence when they fought. Imagine Crawford landing on the jaw. Now, for those of you who don't know, look right here. Here's the video. This is the car accident that Errol Spence Jr. got into in October of 2019. It flipped over. His Ferrari flipped over numerous times. He did not have a seatbelt on. He admitted that he was partying earlier and had drank and got behind the wheel of a car, lost control of the Ferrari at a high speed, and it literally flipped over numerous times, ejecting him from the vehicle because he did not have on his seatbelt. They reported that there was no facial fractures or anything like that, but it completely messed up his jaw. And not only did it mess up his jaw, it omitted his teeth to the point where he told the story, came on this show and told the story about how when Ugas hit him, he was looking down. He wasn't hurt, but he thought that his teeth replacements had been knocked out and that everybody was going to see that he was toothless, for crying out loud, the bottom row of his teeth. This is what he's been dealing with since 2019. But ladies and gentlemen, ain't the only thing that Errol Spence has been dealing with. Did you know that 3 months after that incident that nearly killed him, that Errol Spence Jr. was in another car accident? He reported that he was rear-ended. Did you know that even after that, in December of 2022, right? I didn't even bring up his leg injury from the car accident either. And then you get into the ring against Terrence Crawford, and you're subjected to that kind of beating, that's why Stephen A. Smith is talking about potential retirement. That's why Teddy Atlas was just on this show for a few minutes talking about, at the very least, do not fight for a year. Don't spar with anybody. Don't take any shots to the head. You damn sure shouldn't get in the ring against Terrence Crawford. A matter of fact, let me make a plea over the international digital airwaves of YouTube. Let me make a plea right now to Terrence Crawford. I understand you just beat him. You beat him thoroughly. You're the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. The WBO, the WBA, the WBC, the IBF titles all belong to you because you took his 3 belts to add to your WBO title. I get that. But you hugged him after the fight for a reason. You talked about being relatively decent coming into the fight for a reason when both parties representing both sides was busy acting all up, and you had to tell him to calm down and be careful because it doesn't need to escalate into something it doesn't need to escalate into. Okay? I am making a plea to Terrence Crawford. Even if you elect to give Errol Spence Jr. a rematch, please do not do this for at least a year. Please don't do that. Y'all are cool with one another. You didn't have a promoter. You severed ties from Top Rank. You ultimately called Errol Spence Jr. in the middle of the night one day. You got on the phone with him directly. He was a champion holding 3 belts. You knew how good you were, but in the same breath, you didn't have that promoter connection, and you needed this brother to step up and give you an opportunity. He did that for you. BBC with Al Heyman and those brothers did that. And as a result, you agreed to a 2-fight deal. I know the stipulations. The loser gets to get the mandatory rematch. The winner gets to decide at what weight class. I know about the 147-pound and how you nor Errol Spence Jr. want to fight at that again. I know that you're up, Terrence Crawford, to fighting him at 154. I'm begging you, my brother. I'm begging you. Because I know you got love, and I'm begging Errol Spence Jr., as good as you are, you were just outclassed and all of that other stuff. Crawford destroyed you. Destroyed you. I say that respectfully because I got mad respect for Errol Spence Jr. I got mad respect. If you were in the hotels where I was at after the fight, I saw numerous members of the Dallas Cowboys, all who flew in to watch you. They were walking around looking absolutely depressed. I'm not trolling the Cowboys. This is not a joke. They were like, Micah Parsons looked like he was ready to cry. Trayvon Diggs could barely lift up his head, along with a bunch of others. Draymond Green was in attendance. He's like, they're sad. I was sad. A whole bunch of people were sad. Marlon Wayans was sad. Talking to him. Damian Lillard was ringside with me for the Portland Trail Blazers. That superstar, I want to be a New York Knicks, but to probably end up in South Beach. He was sad. Ryan Clark and my boys for the Pivot. I mean, I haven't seen Ryan Clark look that bad, look that sad in a long, long time. It was damn near like there was a death in the family. That's how thorough this beatdown was. I am 35-1-1, the reigning 154-pound champion, undisputed champion. You want him, go get him. Assuming he gets past Canelo, which I got concerns about. Please, please do not fight Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence, I'm going to say it. I'm begging Terrence Crawford not to give you a fight for a year. I'm begging you not to fight for a year. I don't want you to become Meldrick Taylor. We saw what happened to him after that Julio Cesar Chavez loss, which he should have won, but got robbed when he got dropped with just 2 seconds left of the fight and it got stopped. Ridiculous decision. He was never the same since. You ain't going to be the same either. The best chance you have is to at least wait a year. Terrence, don't fight him. He's in no condition to fight you by December. He's in no condition. I'm begging both of y'all, don't do this. Don't do this, please. Errol Spence will not recover. I say this respectfully and with love. He will not recover if he gets back in the ring with Terrence Crawford by December. And we all, anybody who knows anything about boxing, anybody who watched this fight Saturday night saw it. We know what we're saying. We know what we're saying. Don't do this, Terrence. Errol Spence, don't do this. You don't need any more punishment. Please don't do this. Not at least for a year. Please. Please.